Welcome back to another episode of The Quest for Self. I'm your host, Allie. We've all been there, waiting for that text, that call, that little moment of validation that makes us feel chosen. And when it doesn't come, anxiety kicks in. I recently caught myself in this pattern, feeling unsettled when a daily check in text didn't arrive. That's when I realized this isn't about them, it's about me. Today, we're diving into emotional intelligence, how to stop seeking validation externally and take back control of your self worth. This is something I've been reflecting on a lot lately, especially as I've been dating more. I recently found myself getting caught up in a dynamic where daily check ins and messages became part of my routine. When they came in, I felt good, validated, secure. The moment there was a shift, even just one night without a text, I felt unsettled, questioning everything. And that's when I realized this isn't about the other person. This is about me. Emotional intelligence is what helps us recognize and regulate these emotions. It's about understanding when we're giving away our power, allowing external validation to dictate our own happiness. The goal isn't to stop enjoying connection, but to learn how to maintain emotional stability no matter what's happening outside of us. The moment that really opened my eyes was one night when a text didn't come in as it usually did in the evening. I was sitting there, staring at a black screen, waiting. And the longer I waited, the more anxious I felt. And then it hit me. Why was my emotional state tied to something so small? Why was I letting someone else's response, or lack of one, affect my mood so much? When I took a step back, I realized this wasn't the first time I'd been in this situation. It was a pattern. I'd start talking to someone, things would become consistent, and before I knew it, I was depending on those check ins for a sense of security. And the moment they wavered, so did my emotions. But the truth is, no one should have that much control over how you feel. That's your own responsibility. This is where emotional intelligence comes in. It helps us see these patterns before they consume us. It forces us to ask, why does this affect me so much? Am I placing too much weight on external validation? Because once you become aware of it, you can start to change it. That's exactly what I did. So if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. But awareness is only the first step. So, what do we do with this realization? That's where reframing comes in. Once I noticed this pattern, I had two choices: keep waiting for external reassurance or shift my focus inward. That's where reframing became my biggest tool. Because instead of asking, why isn't this person showing up the way I want? I started asking myself, how can I show up for myself? For me, this shift started with something so small: social media. I used to be the kind of person who wouldn't post a picture without running it by a friend or my brother first. I wanted that extra opinion, that confirmation that I was choosing the right one. But then I realized, why am I waiting for someone else to tell me what looks good when I already know what I like? So I started making my own choices. And the more I did that, the more confident I became in trusting myself. Reframing helped me recognize that my happiness couldn't depend on someone else's actions. But recognizing that and actually living it are two different things. That's where emotional independence comes in. Learning how to feel whole and secure no matter what's happening around you. Now, let's be clear. Being emotionally independent doesn't mean shutting people out or pretending not to care. It means knowing that your well being isn't dependent on someone else's behavior. I've learned that I can enjoy someone's company without needing them to constantly prove they care. Instead of obsessing over whether or not they'll text, I focus on what lights me up. Whether that's working on my podcast, going to the gym, or spending time with friends, or even reading a book. The more I pour into myself, the less I need someone else to fill my cup. So, how do we put this into action? It starts with boundaries. When we lack emotional independence, we tend to overinvest, placing too much emotional weight on people who might not be showing up for us in the same way. So, the key to emotional independence isn't shutting people out, it's learning how to stay connected without losing yourself in the process. And that's where detachment comes in. Not the cold, distant kind, but the kind that allows you to care deeply without becoming dependent. Because I'm not saying you shouldn't care. I care deeply. But there's a difference between caring and clinging. Detachment doesn't mean shutting off your emotions or becoming cold. It means learning how to separate your emotional well being from someone else's behavior. It means recognizing that while you can enjoy someone's presence in your life, your happiness isn't dependent on them being there every second or sending you a text every night. So, how do we actually get there? How do we stop relying on external validation and start building inner stability? Well, here are a few tools that have helped me, and I hope they help you too. Number one, journaling. Writing down your emotions helps you see patterns and gain self awareness. This has been a game changer for me. Ask yourself, why is this affecting me so much? What am I really seeking? Ask yourself the hard questions and answer them truthfully. Number two, mindfulness. Whether it's meditation, deep breathing, or simply being present in the moment. Mindfulness helps you stay grounded instead of getting lost in anxious thoughts. Three, setting boundaries. Recognize when you're over investing in someone who isn't meeting you at the same level. Don't be afraid to pull back and recenter yourself. Fourth, practicing self compassion. You're human, you're allowed to feel emotions. But instead of beating yourself up, approach yourself with kindness and remind yourself that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's actions. At the end of the day, emotional intelligence isn't about shutting off emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about recognizing when we're giving away our power and making a conscious effort to bring it back to ourselves. So here's my challenge for you. Pay attention this week. Notice when you're allowing someone else's actions to dictate your emotions. And instead of reacting, take a step back. Ask yourself, what can I do for myself right now that makes me feel good? Because when you learn to be the source of your own happiness, you become unstoppable. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Quest for Self. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share. It would mean the world. Also, Don't forget to follow us on social media, The Quest for Self.